We are live. Hello, besties and bosses. How are you doing? I'm doing this today without my headphones, I just realized. So hopefully the sound on this will be good. A lot of times I do headphones, especially for the podcast version of this, since we have so much construction and background noise. But we're going to try without. So y'all let me know how you can hear me. I'm going to pull this up in the group so we can jump right in. This is one of those conversations. I hope it will be super actionable for you. This is literally the question I ask myself before hitting post on a piece of content, when I'm editing clients' content, when I'm editing landing pages, a sales email, a reel, that I find really increases clicks, it increases engagement, it gets you out of friend zone, it increases the number of people who DM you and want to know how they can hire you, it increases people saying yes to you on your sales call. So this is going to be, I hope, really simple. I'm just pulling this up. Great, I found myself, and hopefully really helpful and actionable for you. Before we dive in, also just remember, we have a holiday weekend. I feel like I've lived a whole life since then. I feel like I say this every time we have a holiday. I want to know, before I dive into the topic, who took Monday off, who doesn't live in the US so they didn't have a holiday on Monday, and who is like me and always forgets holidays like this until it's like the Friday before, and you're like, why do I have less client calls than usual? And it's because there's a holiday. That was me, so I kind of worked a half day on Monday. But I had a really lovely weekend. I had a girlfriend who came into town, and we went to the what is it called? The Native American or the Native Indian National Museum here in Manhattan. We went out to eat, and I had like an 8-mile epic walk with my husband on Sunday. We checked out Red Hook, which is an area in New York City, and some cool food there. So got a lot of good spin classes in. So it was a very lovely weekend. So that's where I'm at. All right. Let's dive in. Before I dive into the details as well, if you say hi, if you're live, say hi, give me a comment. We are giving away one copy of my 6-figure content strategy playbook. This has content and copy prompts. I've used this, my clients use this. I've literally used these prompts to create content that has had a 150% increase in reach. And this has also helped us to bring in clients. So it's a fun, really actionable. Today is all about actionable things for y'all. But let's then dive in. If you are an OG, you know that I had a podcast for a couple of years, One Question, Unapologetic Questions for Unapologetic Results, where we always unpacked a coaching question or a question. So this feels a little bit like we're bringing that back, because I'm going to be sharing with you and unpacking one question I ask before posting any content. I have 2 questions for you, so I have a follow-up question I think about. We're going to talk, just so you know, we're kind of like the framework for today. We're going to share what that question is. I'm going to help you understand how to use the answer to your question specifically to start to shift your content so you stop sounding like everybody else and can stand out a little bit more online, because it is crowded AF, especially if you're on Instagram. We're all using kind of the same hooks, right? I think this is really important to start thinking about and really stand out as that go-to option for your audience. I'm going to share a little bit about how to stop getting friend zoned, and then really I want to close with, and I think this is important in terms of an easy messaging hack to improve your marketing so you can get more views, more clicks, more people opting in, more people signing up, more people buying and paying and hiring you, because that's kind of what we all want in business, right? I wonder if anybody can guess the question. But I'm guessing no one's going to guess the question, so I'm going to jump right into it. So the question I like to ask, and what I preface with an email about this is the question I always think about when I'm posting something, but this is the question you and I are asking anytime before you hop on this live stream. If you got the email for this live stream, before you even open that email, this is the question we are subconsciously asking before we even open that email, before we click on the link, before you hop on my live stream, before you sign up for my masterclass, right? Before anybody ever hires me, before anybody stops to read all of my long ass content in a post, before anybody watches one of my reels. This is the question we are all asking. This is the question everybody in your audience is asking, and this is the question most of us fail to answer, and that is, we are all asking, what's in it for me? It's so simple, and yet I don't think any of us do this on purpose, but I think we get so close to our work, so close to our content, so close to our messaging, and we can't figure out why things aren't converting, right? Why our landing page isn't getting even traffic to it, why there's a low conversion rate for signups for our free events, why people aren't buying, why people aren't engaging with our content. And so often, if we kind of peel the layers back, and I see this because I edit clients' content, I help them with content, obviously, in coaching calls, but I'm editing this all the time. And one of the things I will often reflect to them is we have to let people know what's in it for them. It is just so, this is great content. It's not that the content isn't good, but I'm just so unclear right from the top, what's in it for me? I just don't understand why I should keep reading this, not because it's not good enough or because the offer isn't good, but because I just am not having that communicated for me. So the number one question that I always want to ask before I hit post is, what's in it for them? What's in it for you? But I'm saying what's in it for me. I really want to put myself in my ideal client, in my audience shoes, and really think about that. And I think what's great about this is this also really starts to help you get out of that kind of like people pleasing, vanilla, safe content that sometimes we write when we're like, I just posted something about this today on Instagram. We're like, when we don't want to be cringe, when we don't want hater comments, when we don't want people judging us, when we're worried about what people will think, right? When we're doing all of that in our content, we're kind of pulling back, we're kind of hiding in plain sight, we're just like kind of playing it safe. I feel like I talk about this all the time. I'm very big on taking up space, being unapologetic, being unfiltered, because I've just seen what a difference that makes for you in your thought leadership, in the way people understand you and your work, in the way you're able to impact people, serve people, help people, in the audience you're able to grow, in your engagement, and yes, in your revenue and in your sales. But what I find is when we're kind of hiding in plain sight, when we're kind of like playing it safe, when we're kind of saying the people-pleasing version of something, we're kind of saying the thing that we feel like, well, this is like kind of what I mean, but like this won't like hurt too many feelings. What we're really thinking about is what's in it for us personally. We're not actually thinking about what's in it for our audience, right? We're still thinking about what's in it for me. How do I stay safe? How do I stay hidden? How do I make sure I don't feel uncomfortable? How do I make sure I don't get a hater? How do I make sure I don't get a comment I don't like, right? How do I make sure I feel comfortable? Which, hey, nothing, this is not for the faint of heart, being an entrepreneur and putting yourself out there. I give everyone a massive round of applause for anyone who's showing up and putting themselves out there. But this is how you start to take your content and your messaging and your marketing to the next level. If you're someone who's watching this now later on the replay and you're like, I have been crushing on those 10K months, or I'm wanting to double my business, or I want $1 million business, right? I think these are some of the tougher questions we have to be asking of ourselves and looking at when we're putting out content. Am I sharing content that is safe so that I don't have to feel uncomfortable? Am I sharing content that is safe so I don't have to feel a bunch of feelings? Or am I sharing something that I know is really important because I know it's saying something that my person really needs to hear? What's in it for them, not what's in it for me? Similarly, are we putting things out? And again, so much credit to anyone who is putting stuff out there, but are we putting things out there saying we want these bigger results and not allowing ourselves to ask this follow-up question when we're taking a look at our landing pages, when we're taking a look at our sales emails, when we're taking a look at our content, right? And we're like, oh, maybe I have the wrong audience, or maybe I have the wrong offer, when it's maybe we're not really asking what's in it for our audience and connecting the dots in our content. Right? It's a tough question to ask, and not a tough question where I think it's like, oh, this is so hard to figure out. I think it's tough because I think it asks us to sometimes be a little bit uncomfortable. I think it also asks us to not just like phone in or say what everybody else is saying, right? We actually have to stop and really think about our audience, what they want, what their needs are. I think sometimes it's confronting because we don't know what that is, or we have to do a little bit more work around that. And I think that in that way, this is a challenging, hard question, but this is the question everyone in your audience is asking. And this is what's determining whether or not people are going to pay attention or not. And this is also the question everybody's asking before they're going to hire. It's the question you and I are asking as well. Let me know if this is making sense. I'm going to go deeper in with this, but if you have any questions, just let me know. So that's what I'm always asking. The follow-up question I'm always asking as well, because I think so much about this with content. I feel like, trying to think of how to phrase this. I said, like, so you don't get friend zoned. I think what happens so often, particularly if you are in this service, if you're a service provider, if you're a coach, if you're a therapist, I think it's going to happen for my OBMs, my designers, people like that as well. But I think particularly for us who are in the like more healing, the more heart-centered, the more, I guess it's like more the healing, the helping maybe modalities is the way I can say it. What I find happens so often is we can get so worried about offending someone, making someone feel bad, hurting someone's feelings. We can get, I think, just a little people pleaser is like maybe the best way I can say it, hiding in plain sight. And I understand that as someone who is a bleeding heart and cares so much about you and I care deeply about this audience. I wouldn't have built this. I wouldn't be showing up for free to give value all of the time, right? I care about my clients and their results so deeply. So this is coming from a place from someone who has a bleeding heart and cares. I care more about serving people than I do about making money in my business. And I care a lot about making money in my business. So just put context there. So I hear that and I understand that. But what I have found is when, kind of what I was saying earlier, when I'm coming from that place, I'm really coming from a place of what's in it for me, not what's in it for my audience. And what that tends to do is it sort of gets me friend zoned. I mean, it doesn't get me friend zoned because I don't do that. But if I were to do that, if we're creating content from that lens, it really does start to get us friend zoned because we're sharing either things that are inspirational in air quotes, but they're not really inspirational, right? Like they're kind of like the safe inspirational thing that someone's just gonna be like, oh, that's really nice. Or in many ways, we're actually in the place of need and support, right? We need someone to agree with us. We need someone to validate us. We need someone to boost us up, right? Like that really puts us in friend zone instead of putting ourselves in the place where we take our power back and we're in the role of expert and we're in the role of I'm someone who is in my leadership role and I can support you. And I'm sharing based on that, right? That's very different than being in the place of I need something back from you to feel good about myself, to feel safe, to feel like whatever. I'll insert all of the like things that we can have come up there, right? It's very different. And I think about this with sales conversations quite a bit. I think I share this in the Fully Booked Method a little bit. When we're having a sales conversation, I think you can be excellent at what you're doing, but sometimes what I see happen and what I coach clients around is we lead sales conversations from a place of not what's in it for the person there, right? And from this place of leadership and really setting the container, and from the place of being an expert who's here to serve and support and find out what's in it for this person, we really come from a place of not being in that role of leadership, from really needing to be validated, really needing to make the sale. Really, it's what's in it for me. And what this does is it's sort of like we have a power transference, right? We're giving all the power then. We're somehow taking away the power away from the person we're talking to. But we're also kind of giving our own power away. And I think this is when we tend to get, this is when you have sales conversations with people and they're like, yeah, your offer sounds really nice. Or like, maybe later, or I'll think about that. But a lot of times it's because we're not in our power. And because we're not in our power or in our leadership and our expert, we're not there to find out what's in it for someone else. We're just trying to figure out what's in it for us. Or we are telling someone what's in it for them. Let me know if this is landing for you. And so kind of going back to, this is why discovery calls are a discovery process. Something, I think I said this in the Fully Booked Method as well, something I always like to remember is, and this will go back to this question, how to answer this question, use it in your content so you can stop getting friend zone, you can stop sounding like everyone else. What I always like to remember is if I'm on a sales conversation, if I'm writing a piece of content, because if I'm coming from a place of my own expertise and from my place of leadership, I generally, in minutes, know what's going on for someone's business if they book a call with me. I generally minutes know if I can help them, right? Like I've been doing this I've been coaching for over 10 years. I've been in business for 8.5 years. I've supported so many clients at this point to six, 7 figures. I only do one-on-one sessions all day, every day. I, within the first 5 minutes, usually have a pretty good idea of if someone's a fit, a good idea of at least what some of the challenges are and the ways I can support them. However, I have a 45-minute consultation. I'm not telling them in the first couple of minutes, and I'm saying this because when we think about what's in it for our people, I think our brains go to, then I just need to fire hose people with this, whether it's a sales conversation or a piece of content, and I just need to tell them, literally like tell them the answer right away. And what I have found to be true is if you were to have a 5-minute call with me and I was like, in a couple of minutes, able to tell you the things you need, I might know what's in it for you. I might know how I can support you. I might know what the next step is, but you haven't. I know that because I'm an expert in what I do, because I do this all day, every day. You probably need a little bit more time to discover that for yourself. Right? You probably need a little bit more time, a little bit more information to be able to get clear on that for yourself. And it's sort of like expert syndrome I don't know if that's a real term, but that's how I think of it. I think sometimes that can be we want to be experts in what we do, but I think sometimes that can make us our own biggest hurdle in messaging and marketing and sales. And so kind of going back to talking about how we talk about this in messaging, how we talk about this in content, I think this is where we sometimes get really stuck on surface level generalisms, or in marketing that is just like selling, like talking at someone, telling someone what they need. And we think we're answering the question, what's in it for them, right? Or what's in it for me is what the person's asking. We think we're answering that because we're like, I know what's in it for them. I know what they need. I'm just going to fire hose them with it. I'm just going to be really direct. I'm just going to be super in their face. And we've all seen marketing like this. And most of the time, marketing like that, what does it make us do? It makes us feel like not seen, not heard, not understood, right? It makes us feel sort of like, why are you yelling at me? And here is the other thing that often happens. When we do that, we forget that it takes people, this is why we call it a discovery call, right? There is a discovery process. What we do is we don't meet people where they're at in the customer journey with us, whether that's on a sales conversation or in content. And we're doing what we sometimes do unintentionally in calls, which is we're jumping the gun before someone has that time to feel seen, heard, understood, and discover and create problem awareness around what it is they need and what it is you have, right? We're kind of jumping over that, and we're missing that. And so we're not actually speaking to what's in it for someone, right? We're kind of bypassing the discovery process. I hope this is making sense. Kate says, love this conversation. I find this so much easier to do for other people more than myself. Oh, okay. I think this is, well, I'll explain why this happens. And then I'll pick back up where I think I'll remember where I left off. Kate, I love you for saying that, because I think we're all this way, right? I think I have to check myself sometimes on content myself. Especially the longer I'm in business, I honestly think sometimes the longer and the more of an expert we are at what we do and the longer we've been doing this, sometimes not like the harder content is or the harder messaging and marketing is. I don't think that necessarily, but this piece in particular, what's in it for them and how to meet people where they're at and how to make people feel seen, heard, and understood so they can understand what's in it for them, I think just gets more and more challenging, because we get further and further away, usually through our own growth, but we just get faster and better at helping people through things. So it's like we can get there so much quicker. So we forget, oh, this is what it was like before I was on this journey, how much I needed to understand, or this is what it was like for someone, before they hired me, how much they kind of needed to be, to understand so they could understand what was in it for them. Hey, Claire, nice to see you there. So I think this is so normal for all of us. So I really appreciate you saying that, Kate. But I think with that, I think to what Kate is saying, I think this is just helpful for all of us to see there's a blessing and a curse. There's a shadow side and a light side to every superpower we all have when we're experts in what we do. Our superpowers, we're experts in what we do. The shadow side of being experts in what we do is we are so quick to know what someone wants and needs, and we can sometimes end up talking at people and kind of jumping the 5 things someone needs to hear to understand what's in it for them, the 5 things people needs to hear to understand the problem that they have, to understand and connect the dots to our services and to our work. And I think this is, again, where we can sometimes get friend zoned, because what happens if you're on the receiving end of this, if someone's just sort of talking at you or just assuming all of those dots have been filled, and you're someone like Kate, who I just know, or Claire, like you're someone who's super heart-centered, and so nothing you're sharing is like, you're not like yelling at someone or making someone feel bad. What happens is, because the person on the other side, who might be so right for your work and so right for what you need, but because they haven't made those connection points, right? They don't understand how this is for them and what's in it for them, because we're kind of just glossing over that and skipping to like the end piece, assuming they know that. They read our content, they hear our marketing, and they're like, oh yeah, that's a great thing Kim said. Oh my gosh, yes, I so agree with you, Kim. Or like, yes, girl, like, you know what I mean? Like we almost get like the snaps. Like, this is what I mean by friend zone. It's not that our marketing is bad. It's just the person reading it is like, yes, of course, I so agree with you, not realizing that it is for them, that this is something that is actually applicable to them, that this is something we can actually help them with, right? Because we've just kind of omitted connecting those dots for them. Okay, Claire, whoever's here, let me know if that makes sense there, and if I'm explaining this in a way that's clear. And so this is why I'm always wanting to think through it. And I think this is something to be transparent. Like, I have to almost like do more mental gymnastics on this with marketing now than maybe before, because I really want to make sure I'm putting myself in the shoes of my ideal client, of the person I can best support, not in the shoes of someone who and it's someone who like needs to go through that customer journey, someone who needs to understand what's in it for them, how I can specifically help them, and what their experience of what I'm describing is, so they can really see themselves in my marketing. And I think that almost does get harder, right? The more we're in expert zone, or like the further we get away from that ourselves. This is, maybe I was telling this to a client the other day. We were talking about content, and we were talking about reels and things. And I said, I don't know if this is helpful to hear. And so I'm sharing this with all of you. I don't know if this is helpful to hear, but a lot of times when I share personal stories or when I write a reel, I'm sharing things that are so not relevant for me at all anymore, right? These are things that maybe were relevant 8 years ago, or it's a story that maybe happened 20 years ago in my life or happened in my life, but it's not necessarily something that's relevant to what I'm speaking to. But I know it's really relevant to my person. It's really relevant to who I'm speaking to. And I really want to make sure that I'm helping someone understand what's in it for them. And I know if I'm helping someone understand what's in it for them, the best way for me to do that is I first have to help them see this is for you, right? And so it's sort of like, yes, what's in it for them? Of course, like practically, let's connect the dots to, what's in our services, what's in our offer. If we have a free conversion event, can we spell out literally what they'll walk away with? But again, this is kind of where we get friend zoned. You can have the best landing page copy or the best sales copy where you're spelling out what's in it for someone. But if they can't see themselves in that, right? If we're not meeting them where they're at, if they can't say, oh, that me, right? They're just going to be like, oh yeah, that's cool. That sounds like an amazing offer. Oh yeah, that's cool. That sounds like an amazing class. Oh, that sounds like a great live stream, Kim, but I'm not going to show up, right? It's just really easy for us to say, that's great for someone else. That's great for me to like think about for the future, as opposed to, oh, F, that be me, right? Like my favorite compliment on a piece of content is when someone's like, that me, right? That's what we're going with. But the way someone's going to say that me, and not just feel like, again, we're friend zone, where it's like, oh, you get me. You struggle with the same things I do, right? Because I think that's also the other thing that can happen when we're sharing a little bit more of strategic vulnerability, is to connect the dots from that me, right? Help someone to feel seen, heard, and understood, to what's in it for them. And when we have those two pieces together, right? So I usually ask what's in it for them first, is just like that one question I want to answer, and that follow-up question in terms of like what's their experience of this, or how can I help them to feel seen, heard, and understood, right? That's how I want to describe that. When we can combine that together, this is what like changes the game in your content, because we also have to think about how this helps you stop sounding like everybody else, because everybody else is in an expert mode. Everybody else is doing what we unintentionally do on discovery calls, where it's like, I already know how I can help you. This is the right offer for you, as opposed to, let me help take you through the journey so that you feel seen, heard, understood, and discover that for yourself, so you sell yourself on the offer, right? That's kind of what we want to do in content, right? This is how you also stop sounding like everybody else and all of the generic things, which, look, when I'm lazy with content, I use all the generalisms. So this isn't to make anyone wrong or to say that's bad with content, but if we're looking at how do we have our marketing step up, how do we have our messaging stand up, how do we increase our conversions, it's my job, I know when I'm looking at my own work, is how do I get past the generalisms and just either talking at people, telling them what they need, or speaking at the generalisms. And generalisms, like, I'll use myself as an example. If I'm speaking to how to improve your messaging and marketing, right? That's great. How to improve your business, how to scale your business. I mean, I think that's relevant to some degree, but there is nothing specific in that. There's nothing in that helps someone feel seen, heard, and understood. Right? When I take the time to actually think through, how can I help someone to see that and be like, oh my gosh, that me? I'll use messaging for an example, and then connect the dots to what's in it for them. Let's say I was talking about my strategy intensive. Maybe I would say, I'm just riffing this off the top of my head, so y'all bear with me. But maybe I would think about one of my clients where they feel like they spend an hour on the Explorer feed trying to figure out what hook to use, what trending audio to use. They're like, if they're honest with me, stalking a couple of people on Instagram to figure out what the heck it is they're doing, and they're trying to recreate that on their content, and it feels like they're working so hard and it's taking them half a day to create a single piece of content, and then they still feel like no matter how much they're working, they just don't understand why they barely get any views, they barely get any engagement, they definitely don't get any saves, no one's sharing their stuff, and they're having a really hard time turning that into clients, right? So if I describe that and you're like, and I was like, oh, and the solution to like, I can help you with this. I can help you figure out how to stop having to look at what everybody else is doing and figure out who your people are and how to talk to them in a way where it actually makes them stop the scroll and pay attention and feel seen and heard and understood and want to reach out to you and work with you, right? If I said all of that, that is messaging and marketing, right? But it is a lot more, maybe not for anybody who's watching here, but it is a lot more, helps people to feel like, oh my gosh, that me, that's literally how I'm feeling. And it starts to help someone understand then if I go on to say what's in my strategy intensive and talk about how we're going to spend a week together drilling into the content topics or exactly what things to speak to so that they can walk away knowing exactly where to show up, what platform to show up, what to do every day, week, month, right? Like if I start spelling out the specifics, what's in it for you, so that when you, yes, you're going to grow your business, yes, you're going to book clients, but you're going to also understand literally how to like put this noise aside and how to talk in your marketing so that people actually pay attention, you actually get noticed, and it actually brings in people who want to pay you money. Right, I mean, y'all can tell me if that lands for you, but I think that is so different than what's really, and I do this too, what's really easy is just to stay stuck on the generalisms and the surface level of like messaging and marketing, and I'm going to help you scale your business and make lots of money, which is great. But that's, I think, when it's easy to get friend zoned. That's when it's interesting to be like, I'll do that later. That's when it's easy when we're reading things to say, oh, I totally get what Kim's saying. Like that totally makes sense. That's for someone else. The way we see this is for me is we have to tell someone what's in it for them and why it's for them specifically. I just want to see, Kate says, yes, makes perfect sense. Thank you. You know, I always want to make sure when I have my brain, these are my brain children that I like to share here. And I always want to make sure, because I don't always make a lot of notes, that I'm articulating this in a way, my thought process with this in a way that's helpful. One of the things I was thinking about as I was thinking about sharing this, I think sometimes when we're kind of in that expert mindset and we're thinking about what's in it for them and what's their experience of that, or how's it showing up for them, or how can I make them feel seen, heard, and understood. I think sometimes we do. I mean, I'll speak for myself. I know I think I'm pretty unfiltered and unapologetic in my content, and I care so deeply about my people. The last thing I ever want to do is make someone feel wrong, bad, shamed, anything like that. And I think for most of you here, that's probably true for you as well. And so two thoughts come up for me around that, so that like that isn't something, because I think that can have us pull back and unintentionally forget to connect the dots for what's in it for our people. And to answer that question, we are all asking, I'm going to keep saying that, but we have to think through our own buying experience. Anytime I click on something, anytime I read a piece of content, anytime I buy something, anytime I consider hiring someone, right? Anything we do, we are all selfish in the best way possible. Like we're all the centers of our own universe. We're always thinking what's in it for me, right? So we kind of have to always answer that question. So one of the things I think about is when I'm taking the effort to do this, I actually think this is one of the most service-based, empathetic things we can do as service providers, because what we're really doing is really being willing to be empathetic, right? To be empathetic to what it means to be in a customer journey, to be in a sales process, right? Assuming someone wants to be in our customer journey, assuming someone wants to be in our sales process, which I think we all want to speak to people who want to be in our customer journey and who want to be in a sales process, right? I just think about how of service it is and how empathetic it is to remember, right? We don't automatically know what's in it for us. And when someone doesn't take the time to share that with us, how frustrating and challenging it is when we're looking for a solution to a problem. I have probably shared this example before, but I'm going to share it again. A couple of months ago, so I get migraines, and I have some like multiple reasons. I think partially from the weather, and I think part of it is I've got some like neck, shoulder stuff, probably from sitting at the desk, being on client calls. Anyway, more information than you need, but I've got some stuff here. And so one of the things that was recommended to me is a treatment called Myofascial Release, which I didn't know anything about. So it's different than massage, but it's supposed to be helpful for this. And so, you know, I'm a business owner. My insurance doesn't cover this. I'm paying this out of pocket. It's not an inexpensive thing. I can afford it. I'm looking specifically for this, and also like it's not something I understand a lot about. And I'm someone who I'm happy to invest money, but I treat my money with respect, and so I don't throw my money around. And also, if I'm going to let someone manipulate and touch my body and muscles, especially around my neck and my spine, you know, like there's some just like things I want to know, especially if I'm trying to solve a problem like migraines, which, you know, there's just a lot of complications in that. And what I found really fascinating, it ties into this here of what's in it for you, and like being empathetic and being service driven, and really taking the time to connect the dots for people. I had such a hard time getting support around this, because when I was looking up service providers for this, first, when I landed on their website, the websites were not meeting me where I was at. They were assuming I already knew everything, and that we're all in techno jargon and lingo, and really failed to meet me where I was at, and really failed to connect the dots for me as to what I would be potentially investing in and what was in it for me, aside from like very surface level, like this could heal migraines. Like, great, but like I don't really trust you if I don't know you and I've never had this treatment before, and it's kind of an out there thing. Right, so that was the first thing. And then I had some consultations, and kind of the same thing. I remember one of the consultations I had with someone who's probably really good at what they do. They just decided within 2 minutes that this is what I needed and that they could help me. And they didn't take me through the discovery process to help me feel seen, heard, and understood, to help me understand why they were so sure they could help me, and to help me understand what was going to be in it for me if I handed them thousands and thousands of dollars to give me this treatment. They just bypassed all of that, right? And they were sure they could help me, and they just sold me the thing. And I left, and I was like, there's no way I'm doing this, right? Like there's zero. I literally don't know if this is actually for me. I don't know if this is the right solution for me. I don't understand what's in it for me at all, except for number of sessions and this treatment that I don't really understand. And then I'm going to pay a lot of money where you're promising me a result, but all of the dots have not been connected for me. And I'm so happy to pay money for a solution that makes sense to me, but none of it made sense to me. And so no shade on this person. A lovely human being. I'm sure they're excellent at what they do, but I think they really missed an opportunity there. And I think it's a good example for us here, where it's not like their offer wasn't good enough. It's not like their price point was out of my range, right? I think sometimes when we're not making a sale, or when we think like our copy isn't working or our messaging isn't working, I think it's so easy for us to go to solving the wrong thing, which is like, my offer sucks. No one wants to pay this. People don't get this. I mean, in this case, I kind of didn't get it. People aren't willing to pay this. People are freebie hunters and just take me up on my call, whatever, fill in the dots there. No one understands how important this is. And I think we sometimes forget, and I'm being sarcastic, but I know I hear this from clients sometimes. I think we sometimes forget no one does know how important this is until we tell them why it matters for them, until we tell them why they should care, until we tell them what's in it for them. And specifically, not just what's in it for them, but until we connect the dots to why it's relevant for them and meet them where they're at, right, to take them through the journey. And when we can do that, everything changes. That's when, if this person on their website had, and again, they weren't a copywriter, like this isn't, not hating on their website or anything like that, but I'm just thinking if I had edited their website, right, I would be like, oh my gosh, please get rid of all the technical industry jargon, because unless a lot of us sometimes unintentionally write content or marketing for our peers, right, unless I'm another peer who's providing my official release treatment, like I literally don't know what this is talking about, and it just feels like empty promises to me, right? I would probably have them look at and think about, where are your people right now? Can we meet them where they're at? Can we talk to them? What is their experience? What's relevant for them? What do they actually really want? Not the general term of, I don't want migraines. Sure, I don't want migraines, but it's actually bigger than that, right? It goes so much deeper than that. And I think sometimes when we just speak to the surface level result, which is still important, I think we just miss so much of that nuance that helps someone to feel seen, heard, and understood. And how do we connect the dots to help someone see what's in it for them? What's in it for me when I make that investment is not just my official release, right? It's not just trusting that you're good at that. I'm sure you are good at that, but I don't know what that means. Right, I don't know what that means until you connect the dots for me and help me see what that means and literally what's in it for me. And I think that's just, like, I feel like I'm taking this one question and hitting us all over the head with it, but I just know how challenging, for myself included, when we are so close to our own work and when we kind of get further away from where our people are at in the journey, how easy this is kind of to gloss over. So I had one other thing I wanted to share on this, otherwise I'm just going to go ranty. But just on that piece in particular, if this is a helpful reframe, I really think this is us being service providers and being empathetic to the customer journey and to the sales process when we can ask this question and answer it. It's also how we avoid getting friend zoned, right? And then I said here just an easy hack for refining for refining your message and improving this marketing for more views, more clicks, and to attract more of the right leads. The hack, I think, here and with this question, what I think can just be really helpful just to simplify this, because I gave you lots of ways, like why this is important, how I'm thinking about this, but I also want to make this really simple, really actionable for you. What I'm always thinking about when I'm looking at clients, when I'm editing clients' content, when I'm thinking about my own thing is, what is most relevant? Is this relevant to my client's audience? Is this relevant to my audience? Is this relevant to the person who I'm speaking to? And if it is, if it's not relevant, then I need to figure out how to make this relevant and to meet them where they're at, because that's how they're going to feel seen, heard, and understood, right? That's how they're going to know what's in it for them. If something does not feel relevant to us, which means if we're using industry lingo, if we're talking about what's relevant to us and our peers, right? That's when we get friend zone, or that's when someone's like, oh, that's great, I'll come back to it later. Like, that sounds really good, or that sounds really nice, right? But it's not relevant to us. So how can I make it relevant? And then to make that even easier, I think, so if this is relevant, for my person, for my client's audience, what is their experience of this? And I think I shared this on another live stream, but I feel like this is just the easiest hack that all of us can do. I think sometimes we think messaging has to be so hard, so complicated. Messaging it's sort of like, if you know your ideal client and your audience well, you will crush messaging. And if you don't know your ideal client and audience well, like, that's also something you can solve, right? You can have more calls, you can survey them, you can do market research, right? It's a very solvable problem in business. It is not something where it's like only copywriters know the hack for how to get good messaging. If you know your people really well and you can think through what is their experience of what I'm talking about, that right there, if you can speak to their experience in their words. I know we always talk about using their words, but I think that can almost be confusing sometimes. And we just look to what someone's response is on a form where they're trying to look good. I really like to think more about what is their experience of this thing I'm talking about. If we can speak to the experience of, we have such a, your content, your messaging will go from really general to really specific, just like that. And that's also going to help you to have your marketing be relevant, to meet someone where they're at, to help them feel seen, heard, and understood. And then if you can take that and connect the dots to what's in it for them, first and foremost, if you're relevant, if your content's relevant, if your marketing's relevant, someone already knows what's in it for them, because again, we are all the centers of our own universe, right? If someone is speaking to the things that are relevant to me, I already know what's in it for me, because that's important to me, that's relevant to me, right? Hopefully that makes sense. And then I would say, just to take it a step further, is I always just look through and look at your hook, your first line, or your subject line. This is like copywriting 101. I probably share this all the time, but these are the most important pieces of real estate in a piece of marketing. We get sometimes and I do this too, right? But we just get focus on the body of our marketing, so focused on this live stream here, right? And this is obviously, the meat is important, but no one gets to the meat and potatoes if we don't first focus on the opening hook, the opening line, the subject line, right? That's what tells someone what's in it for them, if this is for them or if it's not for them. And this is what tells someone, is this relevant or not? And what's in it for them, right? So if we can focus on those areas and think about, how do I make this clear of what's in it for them? And the easiest way I can do that is by thinking about what's relevant, what's someone's experience of this, right? That is just going to help get more eyeballs, get more reach. I always, when I'm looking at my own content, I think I've been doing Reels more, and I think what's interesting with Reels is, not from a pass fail perspective, but you just get really quick data, and whatever's going on with I know there's an algorithm thing right now. This is not about that, but just in terms of, we do get pretty quick data. And I always find my Reels that perform better just in terms of reach or shares or saves or people reaching out to me, versus some of my Reels that, they're not bad content, but they just don't perform as well. If I'm honest, those are usually the ones I've either phoned in a little bit more, or if I look back to my hook or my opening line, it's relevant, but to a really small segment of people, right? Or it's relevant to me, or it's missing something that tells most of my audience, or a larger part of my audience, what's in it for them. And so I think, again, this is just a very simple question, but I want you to see how you can use it. And then I want you to see there's very simple application here. And if you apply it to these areas, that alone, right? If you can get your emails opened more, you've already won half the game if you get more of your emails open. If you can get more people reading your promos to land on your landing page, right, you're already winning the game. If more people on the landing page want to click through, right, like all of these little steps will increase people then going through your customer journey, learning why you, understanding your work, and then turning into clients and sales on the back end. Okay, let me see if there are any questions. Okay, oh, Kate says, thank you. Kate says, not the same thing exactly, but I found the same with the hospital the other day. I have broken my foot. Oh, I'm so sorry you broke your foot. That's so challenging. I have broken my foot, and the hospital gave me a boot and talked about the importance of looking for blood clots, and I kept asking, yes, but what do I do with this boot? I've never broken a bone. I just want the basics on how to look after a broken bone, not the extra depth details. What you're sharing is making so much sense. Oh my gosh, that's such a great example. This is so exactly that, Kate. It's like, can you meet me where I'm at? And if you, like, you're jumping too many steps ahead, if you can meet me where I'm at, like, I just need to know this information, and then I'm in the place to be curious about blood clots. It's kind of like the myofascial release. Like, can you meet me where I'm at and help me understand what's in it for me, how to use this, how to benefit from this. And then once I understand that, right, if you can meet me where I'm at and solve my immediate core question or problem, then I'm ready for more. Then I want to know about the blood clots, or then I want to know about whatever the next offer is, or whatever the next thing is, or, you know, all the different steps. But all of us, like, it's just so easy to do when we're an expert, right? Like, this is the hospital, such a great example. They're in the business of caring for patients, and they know it is so important you don't get a blood clot, right? They know this, but it's sort of like they've just jumped too many steps ahead and missed part of that journey they need to take you through, so that you can feel seen, heard, and understood, so you can understand why that's even relevant to you and why that matters for you. I think that is exactly the same thing, Kate. I think that's a brilliant example. All right, y'all, if you have any questions, let me know. I'm just checking. I did make a couple of notes that I apparently didn't really look at, but I just want to see if there was anything really that jumps out to me here that I wanted to speak to. I will say, just as kind of a closing thought, I just need one quick sip of water. Just to piggyback on what Kate was saying here, and just to see if there's any, just to give time in case there's any questions. I want to be mindful that when you hear this, what I'm not saying is to dumb down your content. What I'm not saying is to dumb down your marketing. What I'm not saying is to dumb down your sales approach. None of you have dumb audiences. I think I have the smartest audience. I think y'all are super smart. I have the smartest clients. They are so great at what they do. So none of this is to say any of that. What we're talking about is meeting people where they're at, speaking to what's relevant, helping people feel seen, heard, and understood, being empathetic to what it means to be in a sales process, what it means to not be an expert, what it means to be in the journey of learning about putting on a boot on your foot, and that, like, yes, one of the things to be concerned about is a blood clot. Right? Can we be empathetic to that? Right? Kate's a great example. Kate is super, super, super smart. It's not like Kate doesn't understand about blood clots or anything like that, but there's an order for her to of importance for her to get to understanding that and being able to understand that. So none of this is about dumbing things down. It is about understanding our people and meeting them where they're at, and being, again, empathetic to that customer journey, that client and customer buying cycle, and remembering all of us at the end of the day, we are humans. We are hedonistic. We want to avoid pain. We want to seek pleasure. We are all the centers of our own universe, not because we are jerks. That is just how we're wired as humans for survival. So we are just always subconsciously assessing everything we do based on what's in it for me. Does this get me what I want? You know, why should I use the calories in my brain to make a decision to click on this thing? Why should I give up my time to read this blog post? Why should I give up my time to sign up for this thing, right? It's not just about partying with money or anything like that. It's just how all of us are wired. It's not because anyone is that we need to dumb things down. I think it's just being really empathetic to that, and the fact that there is just more noise than ever online, and that is not bad. I've talked about that how much I think competition is great, right? It normalizes things in the industry. It brings the cream to the top. Like, I think there's so many good things about that. That means there's a demand, but it does mean we need to be that much more clear and specific when we're in a feed to have someone pay attention, by being really clear on what's in it for them, what's relevant for them, meeting them where they're at. Otherwise, someone's going to say, that sounds great, and scroll on by. That's great for someone else, right? blood clots, oh, I don't have to worry about that. Myofascial release, that sounds like a really fascinating, weird thing. Scroll, right? Because we don't understand what's in it for us. So I hope this is valuable for you all. I hope this is helpful. And I know I mentioned my strategy intensive earlier as I was using this as an example. If any of you are listening to this and you're like, this is great, I think I got this, I understood the concept, but I could use a second set of eyes, I could use one-on-one support to talk this out, to have someone for that strategic thought partnership to really pull out and to get clear on what those words are, how to meet my people where they're at, how to specifically talk to my audience, how to connect the dots for them in my messaging, in my marketing, so they understand what's in it for them, so they understand why me, so they understand why this is relevant to them, as well as mapping out a plan for where to put this so that I'm not having to scroll the Explorer feed to try to figure out or to copy and paste someone else's strategy and then feel frustrated when it's not working for me, so that I know exactly what the things to do every day, every week, every month to start to bring in those really consistent leads who want what you are offering because we've connected the dots for them, right? That's why this kind of strategy works, because when we are speaking to the things that meet people where they're at, connect those dots, tell them what's in it for them, that's why you get the leads like me who are like, I am ready to pay for this thing. I'm looking for this solution. I just need you to connect the dots for me so that you're bringing in consistent leads that are already ready to hire you when they get on a sales call with you, right? I was ready to hire that person in the room if they had just connected the dots for me. One of my favorite things is when people get on a call with me and they already know they want to hire me, right? We just need to talk through logistics, but that's because I'm doing this work in my messaging, not to pat myself on the back. I'm just intentional with it, right? And to walk my talk here, that's because I'm being really intentional in my messaging and my marketing, so that it is doing that heavy lifting for me, so that by the time someone gets on a sales call or on a sales page, right, they're already pretty clear on what's in it for them, right? They're already pretty clear on the relevance for them, what's in it for them, that this is right for them. So it just makes it for an easier sales conversation with people who already want what we're selling. So if that is something you want support for, that is what my week-long strategy intensive, Your Marketing Multiplied, is for. Obviously, this is what I work with ongoing clients as well. If you're looking for more ongoing support, I have some spots opening up over the fall through the end of the year. So I will drop a link for a free discovery call. Kate says, this has been super useful running while hobbling off to relook at my content through this lens. Thank you. I hope you feel better, Kate. That is, man, especially as a New Yorker where we have to walk everywhere, I always have extra sympathy for anyone who has to be in a boot. I know that's got to be challenging. So seeing you in that, I hope you feel better. Y'all, thank you for being here and for hanging with me and for your great questions. I love you all so much, and I'll be back next week. Bye.